Hello, guys. Today we're gonna talk about the movie. Let's see, Yesterday that I just saw. I'm doing a little experiment here. This time around, instead of writing notes down in a notebook, I took screenshots and information from my apps on my phone, and I'm just gonna do it through that. I just wanted to try it out, just easier on the hands, and I thought it would be just wouldn't consume as much time for note taking. So the movie Yesterday, it was released this year. It's rated PG-13, and it's hour 56 long. It feels about right. The movie doesn't feel too long. It never felt too long to me. The movie on IMDb has 7.0 out of 10, about 24,000 ish user votes, and 56% on Metacritic with about 43 critics. The movie stars Himesh Patel and James. Um, um, Patel is also known for the show EastEnders, and Lily James is also known for she played Cinderella in the 2015 Cinderella movie. And the director Danny Boyle, he actually worked on 127 Hours, 28 Days Later, and Slumdog Millionaires actually. And on Rotten Tomatoes, the movie has 63% by audiences with about 297 critics, and 89% by 63% by critics, and 89% by audiences, with about around 18,000 ish actually. And the critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes is that Yesterday may fall short of Fab, but the end result is still a sweetly charming fantasy with an intriguing, but somewhat underexplored premise. I agree. I think that's fitting. I think the biggest. So let's talk about the movie itself. I saw this with Corey, and we both liked it. We both agreed that basically the premise of the movie is this guy gets in an accident, and he wakes up in a world where the Beatles never existed, their music nothing, and and there and at first we thought okay, and not only did the Beatles exist, but their existence themselves, with them gone, altered or erased existence of other things, because a lot of things were held by the Beatles, like certain bands products. We also thought maybe in this universe it wasn't just the Beatles that disappeared. We wondered during the course of the movie, is it just the Beatles that disappeared and other things were disappeared because of the Beatles, or did other things disappear too in general? Like a few major things disappeared, like the Beatles, and some of the stuff were major stuff that disappeared on their own, and some of the stuff disappeared because that stuff disappeared. It's a little weird, and I will say it's very intriguing, but it is underexplored. The premise is cool, but anytime you do something like an alternate world, it's hard to focus on one specific thing that's gone, because it, alternate worlds are just so big and huge. There's so much what ifs to explore that it's kind of hard to stay focused on one thing. I think this movie does a good job of that, but in all honesty, I kind of would have liked a little more. But let's talk about a little bit of stuff now. Let's start with acting. The acting is very good in this movie. Probably my favorite though performance is uh, I can't really say it without giving away something in the movie, but I think uh, basically, someone who was dead in our world is alive in this world, and and the main character meets them, and it's a huge deal. And the way they did it, the guy who they picked to play that person, they did an excellent job, and it's my favorite part of the movie because it just hits home the what if of that world. Um, and yeah, acting's great. I think the lead was good. He was very good. I found him incredibly relatable. The acting was great in my opinion. There was nothing wrong with the acting. Cinematography was very good. I love the cinematography in this film. It definitely tried to be very Beatles. The movie captures the spirit of the Beatles pretty well, in my opinion. And yeah, and let's see, directing was good. I think the direction, I give him credit. It was as focused as you could probably get it to be. Oh, yeah, and, Ed Sheeran, Corey's texting me through this. Ed Sheeran was in this movie. He's pretty good in this. I liked him in this. He did a good job with it because it's easy for movies just to have blatant celebrity cameos and they don't really add much. But he did a he they gave him some meat to chew on, and I like that. And yeah, and direction, acting, cinematography. All right, probably the biggest. Dialogue was fine. I liked the dialogue. There's only a couple things that kind of intrigue me about the dialogue. Is that one the way it was written. One there's a mean spiritedness in this movie. Like everyone's kind of treats the main character. I mean, at first, yeah, but I don't know. This movie it got to a point where they just kept doing it. And I was at a point like, okay, can you guys give this guy a fucking break for God's sakes? I mean, good lord. Some of it was just like, man, they're just not easing up on him at all. And another thing, it's this one's a lot more of an issue for me. There's this cliche where the main character's about to say something about they're about to talk and they get interrupted conveniently and stalling it. And they use that a lot. And I'm not a fan of it. I it started to bother me a little bit because they used it quite a bit earlier on, and it started to irritate me a little bit because because to me it just feels like it's stalling the story a little bit, and I just was like, you could do so much more with it if you stop that. And but yeah, that was the big thing. The biggest thing, I think, the biggest issue with the movie, and I kind of agree with the critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, is that they could have explored the world more. I felt like they kind of, I don't know. I felt like there's so much that the Beatles affected. I mean, if it was the two things I talked about earlier, the if it was just the Beatles that disappeared, imagine exploring how much more that they impacted in this world other than, music. I mean, influences, products, companies. And if the other one is true, is that it's not just the Beatles and things that were triggered by the Beatles, but other major things that disappeared. And it's like, for example, let's say the Beatles is this thing, and then the stuff down there is connected to the Beatles. Now, if the Beatles disappeared, these things disappeared. It's either that one, or it's stuff like the Beatles' Pride and Prejudice book, and disappeared, and then everything else that followed that was influenced by them disappeared too. So the question is it just the Beatles or is it multiple things? And that's something me and Corey talked about a lot in that movie. It was kind of intriguing, and in all honesty, the story they kind of picked to do, we couldn't really. Right, we're starting to lag a little bit here. Okay. Let's see here. Trying to make sure that I don't have to quit and restart because that would suck. So I don't really feel like restarting it. Um. Okay, it's okay. All right. Okay, thanks, Corey. Corey's monitoring, making sure everything's all good with that. Um, to make sure things I don't trail too far out of thing. Basically, the biggest issue with the movie is that they kind of it's so hard to make a world like this when there's so many what ifs and to focus on and they do a certain storyline. It's like basically the main character, he's a musician. And for him, it's all for him, he just takes it upon himself to bring the Beatles music back into the world. And he does it. The studio interferes. He tries to do the things that the Beatles did, like word for word, but the studio interferes. They change some titles to the songs. They do certain things, and it's hard. It was challenging for him, and there's this, they end the movie differently than I thought they. Usually, when they do alternate, this is I don't know if this is a spoiler to the end per se. So I'm just gonna warn you that this is gonna be might be a spoiler. Um, basically, basically, kind of a spoiler here. Basically, when they do movies like this where the character gets stuck in like an alternate world or the future or something, they go back to where things used to be. This movie does chooses a different route. I'm not gonna say what route, but they choose a different route with that, and I respect it for that. 'Cause this is what it is now. This is the he ended up in, and he did. And I like that a lot because this movie is a Beatles movie, but it could have been more than a Beatles movie. And I think that's the tricky part about this movie is that it could have been more than just the Beatles. And when you see certain parts of the film, you're like, man, there's so much more to this world than just the Beatles missing. And I will admit, the movie, I think the trailer made it seem like this movie was more Beatles focused, but you see so much temptation to just check out other if like here's some other uh it's not really spoilers some of these. First Oasis, the band Oasis doesn't exist. Coca-Cola doesn't exist. There's just a lot of stuff, random stuff that doesn't exist. And it's like, man, what's the story behind that? It's they always those things are like, man, how the hell did that happen? I mean, sure, the Beatles not existing, sure, but I mean, just not, just them not having like any of those things. I mean, it just makes me want to see those stories too. So it's kind of a thing where you're kind of thinking to yourself, like, I love the Beatles, but I want to explore this world a bit more. And the movie kind of is like tries to become like and the movie kind of takes the storyline of the guy trying to make it big with this guy's songs. He's carrying guilt that these songs aren't actually his, and this is in the trailer. You see in the trailer him doing this, and yeah, they show the toll it takes on him, and yeah, I think the biggest message of the film is how important the Beatles' music is to the world and how important it is and all that. Oh, hi, Rolando. Yeah, you told me about that. Descendants 3 was coming out. Yeah, and yeah, we are just talking about the movie yesterday. Me and Corey saw it the other day, just talking about my thoughts on it, and I thought it was good, but like I was saying, my biggest issue with the movie is that it just felt like it was kind of it felt like it was trying to focus on the Beatles, but there's so much movie that it's kind of hard to remember like that it's just a Beatles movie. They are live. Like, are they streaming on YouTube or like live like on the Disney Channel, like through cable? And and let's see, what was I gonna? And yeah, And what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, and basically, just like the movie itself, just kind of had a. It just I watch it and I'm like, man, this feels like a Beatles movie. They're going. They were. It felt like they were trying to make it into like a Beatles movie, but I felt like at the same time that I felt like they could have done more with the Beatles. They didn't do enough of the Beatles, and not only did they do not enough of the Beatles, they didn't do enough for that world. And this leads to a big thing. Now, a chunk of the story is a love story, and in all honesty, they handle the love story is done pretty well, in my opinion. I like the love story a lot, but I read some trivia, and apparently, the original script to the story was much more darker, and was darker. And the new guy, they brought in a new guy, and they said this is too dark. We need to make things a bit more happier. And what he did was he focused more on the love story part of it. Now it kind of makes you think a little bit, like what kind of movie would have been if there was less love story and more of him living in this world where he has to bring the Beatles music back and has to deal with what that entails. And not only that, but the world itself isn't the same anymore. Like, for example, like when I said that Coca-Cola no longer existed, that's his pop and everything is Pepsi. I mean, personally, I don't mind Pepsi, but my favorite's Coca-Cola. And in all honesty, if I couldn't have my favorite drink anymore, that would get on my nerves a little bit, because then it's just like, because there's nothing you can do because it's never existed. So, oh yeah, oh yeah, Corey, yeah, I was afraid that might have been a spoiler, but I am going to talk about another thing that didn't exist was Harry Potter. I'm just like, wow, they're just kind of. It's just the thing is that they didn't choose the little things that didn't exist anymore. They chose like huge things that beg movies themselves on how the hell does this not exist? And that's the thing with this movie is that it tries to be about the Beatles, but there's so many other things grabbing your attention. Oh, Orlando, no, they're in cable fan, but for me, I don't have any. I get you. I get you. Yeah, now, a lot of people don't. A lot of people are moving away from cable nowadays. A lot of people are trying to be more stream oriented, which I probably will be like that in all honesty too. And and yeah, and that's the biggest issue I think with this movie, and it's kind of hard to describe, but it feels like it's just. I feel like it's too. I felt like it was too focused on storytelling elements that are a bit familiar. I felt like if it focused more on exploring the world that they lived in, especially the impact the Beatles on that culture, I think it would have been a lot better. And if that was the darker story, then I think studios messed up a little bit there. But I don't want to bash the other elements of the story too. Ooh, I do. We do have cable. We do. But I was just saying that I know a lot of people my age and other people that I talk to that are quitting cable altogether because they didn't want to deal with the bills, and they were using more and more of the streaming services like Netflix and Hulu, that they didn't feel the need to use cable anymore. But but yeah, that's the biggest issue with the movie itself, is that I just felt like they could have done more with that world. Yeah, yeah, Orlando, yeah, but yeah, I felt like they could have done more with that. But yeah, I makes yeah, I wish that they did more with that world, and I think do more with the. I think yeah, it's going good. Been doing videos and all that. Been working on a baseball franchise mode review that I'm going to try to start airing pretty soon. And yeah, I just felt like they could have done more with the Beatles. I mean, they focus a lot on the Beatles. Mike's doing good. He's working. He's doing the video thing. He's just doing his thing like he usually does. And but yeah, the movie I felt like needed, like I said, it needed to focus a bit more on the Beatles, like the importance of them. I think it would have helped to see the guy, like see him fanboy it as with the Beatles a little bit in the beginning of the movie to kind of feel like how important the Beatles is to him because we do get that feeling. Oh yeah, you can tell me something, Rolando. But we get the feeling how important. Actually, you know what? Let me scrap that comment. You feel at towards the end of the movie, you feel how important the Beatles are to him, and you feel how important it is for him to get their vision out into that world. And they do a great job of that. So they do a good job of being the focus of the Beatles in the movie. But the biggest issue with the movie itself, yeah, I still have NFL Game Day 2000. I still have all the game day games. And and I was like, and yeah, I felt like just like what they said, I felt like that. I don't know. I felt like they talked a lot about their music, how important great the music was, but they didn't really talk about the group itself. And the importance was the music and its effects on the world, and you see that for sure. But I couldn't help but wonder if the movie could have delved more into the world and how different it was than our world, because I guess the point of the movie was how important the Beatles were to this world. But what happened was we saw the importance of the Beatles in that world, but we didn't really see, we saw how it affected people, their music affected people, but we didn't see how it inspired people, if that makes any sense. Like we didn't see people become inspired by the Beatles and create something that's from our world. Like we saw people get joy from the music, but we didn't see people get inspired by the music. And I think that's what they were trying to do, but I think they didn't quite get there. And I think that's what they should have done. I think they should have shown people become inspired by the music. Like the music comes in, oh, here's this new this pop soda pop called Coca-Cola, or here's this artist called this author called J.K. Rowling who just wrote a Harry Potter book. But what you told me so far about Madden NFL and EA Sports Fan, can you explain to me, please? Okay, what do you mean? Do you mean like the history of Madden on EA Sports, or do you mean that, or the current state of like Madden on EA Sports? And sorry, got a text from Corey, and yeah, and but yeah, what do you mean, Rolando? Like the history of like Madden on EA, or are you asking for like recommendations, like what are the better Madden games, or something like that? But yeah, the movie. But yeah, I felt. Oh, danger about Madden. You mean like oh, do you mean like the Madden the licensing where EA owns the NFL licensing so that they can Madden's the only football game that can actually have the actual license. Like only Madden can produce NFL related stuff like the teams and all that, the Super Bowl and all that stuff. Is that what you mean? And but yeah. Um I'm gonna sum it up quick here. I love the movie. I think it's great. There's a lot of stuff I love. I just think, oh yes, you meant that. Well, basically, because Madden owns the licensing, that means they bought it in 2005, right when NFL 2K5 came out, and right when the last NFL Game Day came out on the PlayStation, NFL Game Day 2005, and all that other football stuff. And basically, they bought it, and all the other systems had to end, including Blitz actually, Blitz N2. Like anything football related that had the NFL trademarks, those other things couldn't use it anymore. So it had to end. So a lot of those companies didn't make football games. That's why if you look at retro video game shops and you look through the sports games, you don't see anything belonging to NFL 2K5 because there is nothing except for All Pro Football 2K8, but they didn't use the NFL licensing. They did something different with that. I mean, there have been football games that tried to make football games that didn't have NFL licensing and tried to do some different stuff with it. And those had varying successes, but I think they hold up more nowadays because people are trying to get as much out of football as they can without Madden. But yeah, if you're thinking about getting Madden stuff, I suggest nothing beyond PS3, in all honesty. Once you get into the PS4 years, you start to kind of lose a little depth. Oh yeah, tell me about NBA on 2K Sports. I heard great things about 2K with basketball a lot. But yeah, I feel like the discussion on movies I kind of reached the end of that. Basically, it's a great movie. Check it out if it's still in theaters. It's been out for a while. Me and Corey just saw it last weekend. We just kind of wanted to take want we saw we were gonna see it, but then we didn't know if we were gonna see it, but we decided to see it, and we're glad. Overall, I think we're glad we did, but it's definitely I can definitely see why the critics are a little more divided on it because I felt like they didn't quite. It's an admirable movie for the Beatles, but I feel and it's a great idea and everything, but I felt like we didn't quite see how impactful the Beatles gone were and how that the music coming back actually impacted society. I mean, we saw people like loving the music, but we didn't see people get inspired by the music. We didn't see how that music inspired people to do great things and bring things into that world that were missing before. And I felt like if they showed that and maybe showed other things too, I felt like it would have been a more explored and more in-depth world, and I felt like it would have shown how much more impactful the music was. Because they didn't do that. They kind of kept it more like they kind of focused. Starting on NBA 2K20, they will have a WNBA game just like the EA Sports NBA Live did since NBA. Oh, that's awesome. I think that's a cool thing. I heard about NBA Live doing that, and I was like, man, that's pretty cool. And I always thought that was always a missed opportunity because when I went to high school, lots of girls played sports when I went to high school. But people wonder why girls don't like, because I know girls who love sports, but they don't, and I know girls who love video games, but I don't know girls who love sports video games. And I think the reason why was because they don't make them with girls in mind. They make it and I don't know about everyone else, but sometimes it's hard for me to get in a game if it's something I can't really relate to. Like if I'm not the target audience, it's going to be hard for like if it's not a game meant for me, then it's like for example, if like a little kid game like Elmo Counts to 3 video game, like it's not meant for me, so I can't get into. Now if they made an Elmo game meant for me, like something like extreme, then that's a terrible example, but you get what I'm saying. I'm glad either way. Overall, I'm glad that they're doing that. I think it's cool because it brings more people in. It gives WNBA a chance to shine. It gets girls who love basketball and video games a chance to be like, hey, they made a game that we can get into, we can play and get into, and anyone can get into them though. I mean, guys would probably love WNBA games and girls probably like the NBA games, but it's nice to see that they're branching out into something for everyone and not just for a specific audience. Oh, thanks, Corey. Corey said it was a good example. But yeah, we did stray a little off topic on the video, but I love the streaming though. I do. But I will say, overall, I do like the movie. Just I think when you watch it, just keep in mind that I will say they do follow the storyline of the rising musician in it, and it works well for the movie. It kind of reminds me of like some of the movies the Beatles did back in the day with like Hard Day's Night. It kind of has kind of those vibes a little bit. Oh, and Rolando. And by the way, since 2016, NBA and 2K Sports has also an NCAA men's basketball. You should tell Mike about it. NCAA men's basketball. Is that like, elaborate with that for me, because 2K did do like college basketball video games called College Hoops, but the last College Hoops they made was 2K8 College Hoops. So is that like within like NBA 2K, like when you're getting drafted in a player mode or something? Oh yeah. And but yeah, this video's gone on over 30. I think I kind of overall great movie. Check it out if you can. Check it out if you can. If you love the movie, and if it's still in theaters where you're at and you want to see it, go ahead and see it. If you miss out, it's okay. You can find it on pay per view. Me and Corey consider we're glad we watched it in theaters, though. It was definitely worth the price of admission. Just kind of keep in mind that you might want more of that world and you might not get it, but you are going to get a very well done movie. I'm curious on everyone else's thoughts on the film itself, though, because it's definitely missing something. And I kind of described what I thought it was, but I'm curious on what other people thought it was. So share your thoughts in the comments. And yeah, I'm gonna call it good. I'm gonna I'm gonna chill and I'm gonna oh, it's back. It's available on NBA 2K 16, 17, 18. I'm gonna have to check that out. In all honesty, I haven't played an NBA 2K game outside of the PS2. Because when I was younger, I got for my first NBA, I think my first basketball game was either NBA 90 Inside or NBA 2K PS2. I have 2K11, 2K12 on the PS2. I don't have any NBA 2K games beyond that. I did a little playing of those a while back. I didn't get any on the PS4 either, but it's something I want to explore badly. So I recently played NBA 2K11 again, and I still enjoy it. But after reading about the PS3 version, I realized that I'm missing some stuff. so so I'm gonna start doing some deep exploring of some NBA stuff, especially 2K, because I've done a lot of the football stuff already. And so it's kind of time to start getting to basketball a little bit, in my opinion. NHL, it's mostly EA with some dabs of 989 and 2K a little bit. Baseball, kind of the same thing. But baseball is a bit trickier because baseball is kind of a trickier game to explore, though, in my opinion, because there's a bit more. I don't know. I don't. It's not trickier. That's a bad word for it, but it's a little different in exploring. But but yeah, I'm gonna. But Mike said he has the Xbox One. I do got the PS4 and he has the Xbox One. So we both each have that generation of console to explore in. But but yeah. Yeah, we both have it. Yeah, we both have it. And oh, here's a good question, Rolando. Have you ever played what consoles do you have, Rolando? Do you have any? Because if you do, I'm wondering if you ever played the because RBI started doing a RBI RBI baseball came back on like RBI baseball 14, 15, and so on. And I haven't heard good things about it, but I have heard that it is much more simplified compared to like 99 Sports is the show. I'm kind of curious if you played, if you have any thoughts on that. But yeah, and but yeah, the movie's great. Check it out. I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna get ready for bed. I got a little work to do tomorrow, and then gonna do more videos. We might see another movie theory reviews next week because me and Corey we're gonna try to see a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So you might see that video coming out sometime next week, and it'll be streamed, of course. So don't have a timeline yet. It depends on how open my schedule is with everything, and yeah, I think we're gonna end thing. I think I'm gonna end the stream now. Orlando, if feel free to keep chatting with me through the comments, but I'm gonna shut this off mainly because I use my phone as a hotspot for the Wi-Fi because my Wi-Fi at the house is pretty slow. I tried using that for a couple times on the stream and it just didn't cut it. When you see Mike Fan, tell him about NBA 2K 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You don't have it. Do you have any consoles? Like any video game consoles in general? But yeah, I'll talk to him about that. I'm pretty sure he might like it. I know he likes hockey a lot, but I know he's kind of been I talked to him about the sports stuff and he says he wants to get him more in sports stuff. Oh, you don't? You should look into that cuz I know you really love the 989 stuff and a lot of video games from the 2000 area, and a lot of those consoles for like the PlayStation. I got my PlayStation for $25, and the games for it are very cheap too, like $2 to $6. And in all honesty, I think, and if you really love those, I think, and if you're gonna play them a lot, I think it'd be a pretty cool investment for you because you can get a lot out of them because they're making the most out of that PlayStation console, and the games had a lot of depth and niceties to them too. But but yeah, I'm gonna end the stream. It has gone on pretty long for a movie theater review episode, but I'm okay with that because I chat and do all those things, and I enjoy that a lot. So I'm gonna end it. And if anyone who wants to keep chatting, go in the comments. And we do have a Discord channel. The link in the about page is complete shit. It's not the right one. We still have to figure out how to get the link from the Discord channel into it. So bear with us on that. But if you go on Discord and you feel like searching us up, look up the Campy Company, and I'll have our YouTube channel logo. It's the same logo on our Discord. So look that up. We try to do channel. We'd like to do quick updates through that and chat with everyone about really anything, really. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to sign off. We're hitting 38 minutes live, and that is long for something like this, but I don't mind at all because, chatting and discussing and everything. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe and like the videos, and have a good day.